we're going to bring up two incredible endurance athletes and two dear friends, Hilary Biscay, who's an Ironman champion and an Ultraman champion, who's known for being one of the toughest athletes on the Ironman tour, and also happens to be a childhood friend of my wife and sister-in-law. Needless to say, Hilary became the better athlete. And then Rich, who is also a dear friend and did this insane thing called Epic 5, where he did 5 Ironmans on 5 different Hawaiian islands in 7 days, and just has an incredible story. So like, if we're talking about achieving peak performance, it doesn't get better than these two. So we're gonna welcome them up right now. Thanks. So I'll start with you, Rich. We're talking about time, and so many of us don't have time, and we want to do something for 30 minutes in terms of exercise. That's all I got. What do you recommend to anyone out there? What would you do? You got 30 minutes, that's all you can do.
Well, I think the most important thing is to just engage in something that makes you feel happy, that involves moving your body. And I think what happens is we get really caught up in this idea of where is it going to lead me? Like, oh, I want to run a marathon, or you pick some goal and you want to have it all figured out in your mind how you're going to get there.
Right.
And what happens is that results in paralysis for a lot of people, because they can't, like, they want to know the perfect running shoe before they even just go outside and take a walk. So my advice is always just go outside and do something, engage with your body in a way that helps you sort of connect with yourself a little bit more, and to find something that's fun for you. If you hate running, do something that you enjoy.
So you gotta like it.
Yeah, you gotta like it. It's not about 30 minutes or 5 hours. It's about just the fact of actually doing it and following through.
And so for Hilary, your races last for hours. Like, how long is an Ironman?
Between 9 and 10 hours.
9 and 10 hours, so that's a long time. So like, do you ever mentally, while you're doing this, you're going through agony or pain, do you ever just get like bored, or like you just want to like stop and cry, or just go leave, or like, does that ever happen?
Oh yeah, every time I race, literally, even on my very best days, and I think I speak for everyone in my, sort of all of my peers when I say this, even on my very best days at the races, I hit one of those moments at least once. It's simply too long that it's not possible to never go into the valley over 9 or 10 hours, right? You have your peaks and you have your valleys, and on a good day you have less valleys than peaks, but absolutely I hit that point of, I don't know if I can finish, I want to stop, I want to sit down and cry, that kind of thing, at least once. And I think that it's conquering those moments is something that just comes with practice. It's like, now I've done, as of last weekend, 66 Ironmans. So I proved to myself. I think that like the severity of those moments is lessened to a certain degree with each one, just because I've now proved 66 times over that no matter what is thrown my way on the day, and a lot of things have been thrown my way, I'll always get to the finish line. So I know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'll come out of it.
Was there a certain number when you got over the hump? Like, were you like, I know I can, was it 5 or 46?
No, I mean, honestly, one of my most trying Ironmans was number 64, so it's just 2 months ago.
Oh, wow.
And it presented some of the biggest challenges I've ever had, but because I was at number 64, those challenges I may not have been able to handle at number 20, but I had, over the course of the last 40 or so, I developed tools, to deal with those.
Right.
And I like that she's done 3 Ironmans in the last 2 months.
So this question is for both of you. I'll start with you, Rich. Do you think you are born mentally tough or physically gifted, or is it something you had to work on?
No, I think it's something you have to work on. I mean, I think it's easier to be mentally tough when what you're pursuing is something that you're passionate about. I mean, I think that if you're trying to be mentally tough about, a job you don't like, or something you really doesn't feel like is you inherently, then it's a lot harder to adhere to a schedule or kind of follow through on stepping stone goals. But when you have a passion, when you have something that truly moves you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, it's a lot easier. But I think that, my personal experience has always been that, I was never the smartest kid. I was never the most athletically talented, all these sort of things. And I realized at a very young age that if I wanted to kind of compete with, sort of the people that I looked up to, that I was going to have to go the extra mile.
Right.
And that was a very conscious decision that I've made at a young age that served me. It's also led me down some dark alleyways as well. But I think it's a discipline just like anything else.
And what about you, Hillary?
Tell me one more time. Sorry.
So do you think you were born mentally tough or physically gifted? Or is it something you had to work on, or is it a little combination?
I'm nodding listening to Rich's response because I feel like we're like athletic soulmates in that way. Because I've always sort of been of the same mindset that he described. Like even as a young kid, my background is in swimming.
Right.
And I was actually Colleen and Carrie, Jason's wife and sister-in-law, and all my peers, in fact, were kind of light years ahead of me for much of my young swimming career. But I think that, I always just felt like if I work harder, I can catch up. And I guess maybe I've had so many coaches along the way sort of tell me that I was lacking in talent. That the one thing that I understood that you were born with that, but the one thing that I think I also understood early that I could cultivate was that like mental toughness. And so that was something that I worked on.
So what do you guys do when you're in a slump, whether it's training or in life? How do you apply those rules of training and competing when you're in a slump to life, to everything you do?
I think the main kind of rule of thumb that I rely on is this idea that you can't think your way out of those situations. You can only act your way out of those situations. And what I mean by that is essentially that if I'm feeling depressed or sorry for myself, or I'm tired, I don't want to get up and do my workout or whatever it is I have to do that day, it's very easy. Like my default, and I think the sort of common default mental position is to go, well, I'll just wait until I feel better. Or I'll wait till a little later on, then I'll get to it, when my emotions shift. And you have to realize that mood follows action. It's not the other way around. So when you take the action in spite of however you feel, realizing it's just how I feel. It's just a feeling. It's not going to kill me. I can feel it. And then to take action in contrast to that anyway, that's how you shift how you feel about that scenario. And that's how I get out of those sort of holes that I can dig for myself, whether they're physical or emotional.
And for you, Hillary, how do you get out of a slump?
Exactly the same way. I mean, one of the things, fitness I found and sort of like, athletic fitness is something that we constantly have to be working on. So there are always, there's a time in every season and year when, even as a professional athlete, we take some downtime. And when you start coming back, you feel this like, everything feels terrible, and when things feel terrible, you don't feel like getting out the door to go for a run because it suddenly feels a lot harder than normal. What I've learned is exactly as Rich described, like there's no way to get through it other than to go through it. Like you literally have to work through it when you don't want to do the workout, when it doesn't feel good, it's not going to feel good. It's literally forcing myself out the door to start the workout every day for weeks until that like good feeling comes back.
I would add to that also, a big theme of today has been meditation and kind of understanding the difference or the distinction between kind of your higher self and the chatter of your thinking mind, right? And your thinking mind is going, you can sleep in, don't get out of bed, do all that kind of stuff. And when you are meditating or you have developed like enough of that awareness or consciousness, you can go, oh, that's just that guy over there saying that. Like, I don't have to listen to that. I don't have to engage in that. I can actually turn that off and just put one foot in front of the other, regardless of how I feel or whatever my mind is saying. And before I know it, like, I'm in the swimming pool or I've taken the first step on that run that I really didn't want to do that day.
And so I want to get back to this idea of like training and applying the rules of training to life. Like, is there separation for either of you? Do those rules apply to everything you do?
I think so, and people who deal with me in business probably get really annoyed with that. But to me, it's I guess something that really sort of transcends across like my entire life is, how are we gonna tell me what we need to make? Like we're talking about what we're gonna need to make happen. Say it's in business or whatever else. And I just want to figure out how we're going to make it happen. I have no time, don't want to talk about the excuses and things that are in our way. Let's just be like solution oriented. How am I going to get my foot out the door to start that run at 4:30 this morning? My alarm goes off. How are we going to solve this problem? How are we going to deliver this product? That kind of thing. It's sort of like all eyes on the prize, and I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to think about like any obstacles. Let's just like figure out how we're going to make something happen, and that's what happens with training, and that's what I try to apply to everything else in life.
Right. And so, what is that sense of it? I think we all, hearing some of the things you've done, like, what does that sense of accomplishment feel like when, after Epic 5, after Ultraman, after you've done something? Like, do you feel? We talked about the mind-body connection. Let's talk about how you've just done something that's amazing. How does that inspire you to?
Well, I think
what does that feel like?
The volume gets turned up so gradually,
Right.
So it's natural for Hillary to go, yeah, I've done 66 Ironmans, like what's the big deal, right? Because that is a process that took a lot of time. There's been a lot of work, so it's normal for her. And
Right.
so Epic 5 or Ultraman or these other races, it's similar. When I first started out, the idea of running a marathon seemed insane,
Right.
And then I remember the first time I did a 40-mile training run, and it like blew my mind. But it's because it just was a very gradual progression.
Right.
So that by the time I did Epic 5, when I was done with that, I was like, okay, I did that. And a big thing that I always talk about and I always try to hammer home is I'm not focused on those finish lines or those destinations. It's not about like how I feel when I cross the finish line, because when I think back on those experiences, it's kind of like that's a blur, but what I remember is that morning, that I didn't want to get out of bed and I did anyway to put the training in. It's like
Right.
those little things along, those pearls, those little like beads of wisdom that you accumulate along the path, along the journey. And that's what I think about and that's what I value. And the sort of the race or whatever it is just the icing on the cake. It's like the physical manifestation of what got you to that place.
Right. And so I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and everyone always wants to know, like, what you guys eat. Like, what's in your pantry? How do you fuel? Like, if we walk into your kitchen right now, what's in there? What's in the fridge? What's in the pantry?
Go.
Oh my goodness, lots of coffee. I know he won't agree with that. My husband just delivered me a quad shot soy latte, so there's a lot of that. And I in my pantry is in terms of my food. I can't speak for the entire family, but there just aren't any animal products, and that's for me a really big thing. It was not athletically motivated. It was ethically motivated. I love animals. So for me, I don't consume any animal products in my life. Nor do I consume gluten. So there's that seems like a lot of rules, but it's actually super easy when you get used to it.
Right.
And so I try to eat as many living things as I can in terms of green things and vegetables and fruits and all of that. I think that I also, if I weren't a person, I would be like a big garbanzo bean, because that's my thing. I eat them
beans.
I eat them by the pound, and hummus. Yes.
And what about you, Rich?
Yeah, it's very similar. I mean, I've been 100% plant-based for coming up on about 8 years now, and that's really what revitalized my body, mind, and soul, that has allowed me to go on and participate in these crazy endurance races. So it's very similar to the way that Hillary eats, but I'm a husband and a father of 4. We have a busy house, lots of kids, and so what I eat is what my kids eat, what my beautiful wife Julie, who's an amazing cook, she's right here, that she prepares for all of us. But it's generally just tons of healthy fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, and whole grains in all kinds of varieties. I'm a big proponent of blended smoothies. I start my morning with that. My breakfast is usually like essentially drinking a salad. And
what's in there?
Yeah, it's everybody's always like, "What's the secret?"
What is it?
Smoothie you
Tell
have
everyone.
in the morning. But quite honestly, the truth is that it just depends on what's on our refrigerator or our pantry that day. With 6 people in our house, we're not always fully up to stock on everything. But it always starts out with dark leafy greens, so that would mean like kale, spinach, beet greens, chard, and then from there, maybe some broccoli. I said spinach, beets. celery, and then some berries, like high in antioxidant berries, and some superfoods, hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds. It's every day is different, you know. But and the way that I make them, they always end up tasting the same, no matter what I put in them. So nothing
What's in your
matters,
smoothie, Hillary?
Julie knows how to make them taste really good. I just
You
drink
just show up
whatever
and drink
in
it.
there. Yeah.
Very
And just
similar.
Tons of plant-based
Yeah.
foods,
Yeah, lots of green stuff. I like to just cram as much green stuff and vegetables. Like I put zucchini in there and carrots because I just think it's simply impossible to chew as much of that stuff as we
Right.
actually need. So I like to disguise as much of it as I can in a smoothie with berries and frozen bananas and stuff that's like sweet.
Makes it
and
taste a little better.
yeah. So it's just about maximizing the Vitamix capacity and like how many nutrients can I pack into one blender.
You're both making me very thirsty and hungry right now.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing a bit about what you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.